They called her Baba Yaga, though her real name had been lost the moment she walked away from Earth. Whispers followed her through the void, a trail of silence and dread that filled every dark corner of the galaxy where fear still had meaning. No one truly knew where she came from, or what she was, only that she moved with human skin and in human certainty. Even the predators of the cosmos, apex monsters forged in gravity wells and sharpened by eons of war, learned to step around her shadow. That was before one of them got bold. The Carcass had never lost a hunt. A species engineered for death by a civilization now long extinct, they continued existing because extinction couldn't find them first. 9 feet tall, armored in living obsidian, their muscles pulsed with hydraulic strength and bioplasmic current. They didn't fight for survival, they existed to remind the galaxy who sat at the top. And when one of them heard the name Baba Yaga, spoken in hushed tones from a dying warpriest on Vaskar 9, it laughed. A low, grinding sound like stone cracking open. Challenge accepted. It dropped from orbit onto the silent mining colony of Elter Prime, its ship vanishing in flame and plasma. The Predator strode through the settlement like a phantom, killing indiscriminately, dismembering bodies for display. Not for food, not for strategy. Just art. Messages written in blood and bone to draw her out. She arrived before the third rotation. Baba Yaga didn't bring a fleet. She didn't bring a gun. Just her coat, long, matte black, armored with nothing but stories, and a pair of gloves she tightened slowly as the dust settled around her boots. The Carcass stood in the center of the colony square, surrounded by dismembered colonists, waiting. Its 6 eyes shimmered with heat signatures and threat calculations. Her frame didn't match anything it understood. She was too light, too slow, too unarmed, but the instincts deep in its mutated core began to whisper. Danger. Are you the one who made this mess? Her voice was soft. No raised volume. Just that stillness that made the void seem louder. The Carcass tilted its head and growled in a language formed from harmonics and ruptured sine wave. The translation chip in her collar bled it into her ear. You are prey. I will enjoy watching you break. Cute, she replied and walked toward it. It struck first, a blur of obsidian claws slashing through compressed air. A single swipe tore a mining hauler in half behind her. But she wasn't there. She'd stepped aside. Not dodged, just moved, like she knew exactly how far the claws would go and where they'd land. The Carcass recalculated, adjusted its footing. A snarl escaped its core vent. Baba Yaga stopped just inside striking range. Looked up. One hand behind her back, the other rising, and then she slapped it. The sound cracked the sound barrier. A single open-handed slap across the alien's armored face. Not a punch. Not a kinetic blast. Just the human equivalent of contempt. The Carcass froze. Its head tilted slowly from the force, and something inside its skull vibrated wrong. A high-pitched ringing filled its mind. Its equilibrium failed. Nerve endings misfired. Language and logic collapsed. It stumbled back. It didn't understand. There had been no weapon. No augmentation. Just force. The kind that ignored physics and logic. The kind that broke rules. The kind that ancient species once sealed inside vaults and called curses. Baba Yaga stepped forward, slow and calm. The Carcass roared, leapt, its entire frame flared with plasma. Blades unfolded from beneath its carapace, forming a whirring aura of death. It struck with everything: speed, mass, power, instinct. A blur of motion no camera could follow. She ducked once, then rose. Slap. The second one knocked out every lens in the colony. The impact shattered the Carcass' chestplate. Ribs, if that was the right word, split apart like kindling. The alien flew through 2 buildings and embedded itself into a mining shaft wall. Baba Yaga followed, dusting off her hand like it had touched something unpleasant. The Carcass tried to rise. One leg twitched. It growled, tried to reform a weapon from its internal structure. Her boot pinned its chest down. No one slaughters under my sky, she said, tone as still as ice. Coughed out something between a plea and a challenge. She raised her hand a third time. No, it hissed in fractured galactic common. What are you? Her fingers flexed. She thought for a moment. Human. Then slapped it again. This time, the skull collapsed inward. The predator's body went limp. No explosion. No dramatic end. Just finality. An apex predator deleted from existence by a gesture. Baba Yaga stepped away, sighing. Behind her, the emergency response drones finally emerged from their shelters. Silent. Watching. She didn't speak to them. Just kept walking, hands in pocket. By the time Earth Command received the transmission, she was already gone from Elter Prime. The Galactic Senate, monitoring the incident covertly, called an emergency session. The footage, captured by scavenger drones, was replayed in dark chambers and war councils. None could explain what they saw. It wasn't just the act of violence, it was the precision, the calm, the way reality itself seemed to make space for her. She hadn't defied gravity. Gravity had politely stepped aside. One elder of the Solaric Concord whispered, "She walks like a myth. She leaves truth behind her." In the outer rim, mercenary fleets changed course when hearing even rumors of her direction. Bounties were silently withdrawn. Warlords refused to speak her name aloud. In the distant prison vaults of the Krovtal Expanse, an ancient AI classified her under one tag: Galactic Anomaly. Type human, uncontainable. She was not a soldier, though she had fought more wars than most armies. She was not a weapon, though many tried to build her into one. She was a reminder that humans didn't need claws, plasma, or telepathic networks to be terrifying. Sometimes they only needed a bad reason and an open hand. The story spread as stories do. Not from news feeds or state broadcasts, but through whispers. Smugglers told it to frightened refugees. Miners etched her silhouette into station walls. Mercenaries repeated it around Fireless Camp. And every version ended the same way. She slapped a god and it died like a coward. No one knew where she was going next. But every predator in the galaxy started watching their sick. Because somewhere Baba Yaga walked. And if she ever turned toward them, they prayed she'd just keep walking. Because if she didn't, they wouldn't get a fourth slap. The moment the ship's hull sealed behind them, silence reigned. Baba Yaga didn't need introductions or permission. She moved like a storm walking on two legs. Alien Marines, taller, stronger, bred for war, watched her with something like confusion. No one had warned them the human wasn't a soldier, diplomat, or executioner. She was all three. The translator implants worked well enough for the lead alien officer to step forward. "You are trespassing on a high-threat quarantine vessel. Identify." She slapped him. There was no wind-up, no speech. Just the sharp sound of knuckles on exoskeletal jaw. The officer crumpled. One blow and the command hierarchy shattered. The soldiers didn't move. They'd been trained to expect aggression from humans, yes, but not this. Baba Yaga leaned close to the nearest one, stared up into his lidless black eyes, and whispered, "Where is it?" He pointed without hesitation. A genetically engineered apex predator from the Sarn hive had escaped during transport. Not killed the crew, devoured them. It learned from every kill. Heat signatures, blood scent, stress pheromones. Standard weapons were useless. The species had been banned for combat by unanimous galactic law. So naturally, someone tried to weaponize it. Baba Yaga marched down the corridor. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. Her boots clicked in rhythm with the thrum of a barely functioning gravity generator. The Marines followed at a safe distance, weapons up. Not to defend her, but to record the impossible. She reached the containment zone. Scorch marks, shredded bulkheads, the smell of roasted meat. The monster had been here. It hadn't just escaped, it had reshaped the ship's ecosystem around itself. Traps made of piping, body heat sources set as bait. This wasn't an animal. It was thinking. She kicked the mangled security door. Come out. Nothing answered. She didn't flinch. Didn't scan. Didn't call for backup. A shimmer of movement to her left. Then silence. To anyone else, it would have seemed empty. She spun, caught the predator mid-leap with one hand around its throat. The creature, a 10-foot-tall abomination of claws, chitin, and muscle, froze mid-air, strangled not by force, but by a certainty older than war. Death had a name, and it was female. You're not special, she said. I've eaten worse than you. The thing growled. She slammed it against the ceiling, then the floor, then the wall. Metal dented. The ship buckled. She didn't roar. She didn't grunt. She moved like inevitability. When it tried to retaliate, claws extended and venom dripping, she crushed its arm at the joint and stepped on its foot hard enough to split plating. Bones didn't matter. Pain didn't matter. It wasn't about technique. It was a lesson. She pinned it with one knee, shoved her hand down its maw, and yanked out its second brain. You bleed too easy, she muttered. The Marines stared. One vomited. Another knelt, not out of respect, out of evolutionary instinct. She stood, wiped green-black fluid from her hands on the wall, and left the corpse where it lay twitching. Get me something stronger. The officer she slapped earlier limped after her, one arm hanging loose. That was the strongest Apex-class predator known. Then your galaxy is soft, she snapped. No one argued. They reached the central command deck. Alien officers and analysts had been monitoring the hunt from behind secure glass. When she entered, they stood. We didn't expect results, the Admiral said slowly. She didn't answer. Another officer stepped forward. The Sarn hive will demand explanations. That creature was genetically traced to their royal den. Let them, she said. I'll slap them too. Silence. Why did you come alone? The Admiral asked finally. She fixed him with a look. Because sending more humans would be overkill. You're lucky I came. A console beep. Proximity alert. Another ship, bigger, war-armed, entered orbit. Sarn hive insignia. They had arrived faster than expected. The Admiral paled. They know. Good. Weapons powered up. The alien crew panicked. Babble erupted as officers barked orders, diplomats screamed legal precedents, and tacticians began calculating survival odds. She cracked her knuckles. I want a direct channel. The Admiral obeyed. A live hologram filled the air, Sarn warlord in ceremonial bone armor, flanked by hybrid monstrosities, half-sapient guard beasts. You murdered one of ours, the warlord growled. He attacked me, Baba Yaga replied. That was a billion cred experiment. He wasn't worth half a cred. We will avenge this insult. No, she said. You'll remember it. The warlord's expression twisted. You threaten the hive? She stepped close to the hologram, leaned in until her breath fogged the image. No. I remind you. She reached for the nearest console, punched a security override, and transmitted the full footage of the encounter. The slap, the kill, the corpse. The warlord watched. In silence. Then one of his guards backed up. Another whimpered. Your species is unstable, he said. Impossible to measure. You defy all war doctrine. She smiled. You're learning. We will consider sanctions. She laughed once. The kind of laugh that broke treaties. You'll consider silence. The transmission cut. The Admiral slumped into a chair. They won't retaliate. Will they? No, she said. They'll lie about what happened. Claim it was a noble duel. Save face. And the corpse. Tell them I fed it to my cat. They didn't press further. The next few hours passed in tense recalibrations. Crews cleaned the blood, analysts updated doctrine, war manuals were shredded. Every alien on that ship had a new rule engraved into their nervous system: never provoke the human woman in red. Eventually, a transport ship arrived to collect her. Unmarked, faceless, silent. No ceremony. The Admiral followed her to the airlock. Why do you do this? Because someone has to. Are you military? She looked at him with something approaching amusement. No. Then what are you? She stepped inside the pod, but turned back before the door closed. I'm the slap you didn't see coming. And then she was gone. But legends don't vanish. By the next cycle, 10 warlords invoked her name during ceasefire talk. Pirate clans removed Earth from their map. Smugglers whispered of a single red sleeve in the void, and how even gods flinched. And deep in the Sarn Hive's genetic archives, one file was quietly marked: "Do not replicate." The footage, somehow, had spread. Every slap, every moment, every frame, and across 1,000 species, a new saying emerged. If you see her hand rise, pray. If it lands, run. The predator's scream still echoed across the shattered battlefield, a twisted metallic rasp that barely sounded alive. But it wasn't dead. Not yet. The slap hadn't killed it. It had erased its will. The creature's once pristine exoskeleton lay fractured, leaking fluorescent ichor. Limbs that once tore tanks apart now twitched like a marionette with cut strings. It crawled. Through smoke and ash, it dragged its body across the scorched hangar bay. One claw extended toward the command console, it could barely see through shattered optic. It didn't want vengeance anymore. It wanted escape. That was the difference between its kind and hers. The humans didn't run. Above, the massive hull of the orbital dreadnought groaned under the strain of Baba Yaga's attack. The command center was silent, every officer frozen, eyes wide as they watched what no training had prepared them for. An entire alien species engineered for war, subjugators of countless worlds, brought to its knees by a human woman who hadn't even raised a weapon. Admiral Noor watched through the live feed. Her fingers were still hovering above the abort code. She didn't press it. No one did. The War Council didn't speak. There was nothing left to decide. The question wasn't how to stop her. It was whether anything in the galaxy could. Baba Yaga didn't speak as she moved through the wreckage. She stepped over crushed armor plating and shattered synthetic. One boot landed on a scorched alien standard and crushed it beneath her heel. The soldiers who had followed the predator now backed away, their rifles lowered, eyes wide with terror that went deeper than fear of death. This was existential. Their empire had always defined itself by strength. That illusion was broken. She didn't kill them. She didn't need to. That was the second difference. Humans only needed to win once. A deep metallic tremor rippled through the floor. The Predator's dreadnought, the apex flagship of the war fleet, was powering up its core. A failsafe. If it couldn't win, it would incinerate everything. Detonate the fusion core and take the human with it. Better oblivion than humiliation. But Baba Yaga didn't flinch. She looked up through the fractured skylight at the looming belly of the ship. It glowed with blue veins of power, like a sun about to detonate. She exhaled once, a calm breath that cut through the panic. Her fingers flexed. She raised her hand. The slap wasn't repeated. This time it was a snap. Flesh against flesh, echoing with the crack of thunder, rippling outward in a silent wave no sensor could track and no technology could replicate. It moved not through space but through will. The dreadnought core dimmed. Systems collapsed. Energy bled away like a dying star. Aboard the dreadnought, engineers screamed as control panels melted and warning klaxons blared. The core shut down in a single breath. Not even disabled. Silenced, as if shamed into submission. The failsafe failed. The Predator had no more weapons left. It looked up from the floor, one eye still glowing. But it wasn't rage that filled it. It was recognition. This wasn't a war. This was a judgment. Human warships emerged from the orbital veil, dropping from stealth fields like ghosts. Tens of thousands of them, weapons cold, engines humming. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The alien armada didn't resist. Their ships powered down one by one, surrender codes blinking across every channel. Some captains self-destructed their drives, unwilling to accept the defeat. But most surrendered. No negotiation. No conditions. They simply stopped fighting. On Earth, the footage spread in seconds. Across every outpost, every colony, every human-occupied planet, the name rippled like a nuclear pulse. Baba Yaga. The soldier with no rank. The name with no file. The myth made real. Alien species that had kept their distance now watched in stunned silence. Diplomatic envoys scrambled to rewrite their stances. Fear turned to reverence. Threats collapsed into treaties. Trade offers flooded Terran High Command before the first hour passed. And yet, the woman who had caused it all said nothing. She approached the predator one last time. It didn't move. Not even a twitch of resistance. Its claws were broken, its body shattered, but what truly crippled it was its mind. It had never been defeated like this. It had never been humiliated. Its entire species had no word for what had been done to it. She crouched beside it, face impassive. Her voice was soft, calm, measured. You wanted to see what makes us different. Her hand rested on its chest. No pain. No strike. Just contact. This is it. We fight not for conquest. Not for control. We fight to protect. And when you cross that line... She stood, leaving it in silence. You meet the storm. The ship beneath them shuddered. Emergency systems kicked in. Evacuation pods deployed. The Predator's elite forces didn't move. They didn't resist. The myth had infected their logic. Even those programmed without fear had fractured. Baba Yaga didn't run. She walked. Through fire. Through steel. Through the legacy of a species that had crowned itself predator of the stars. She walked through them all like a ghost in flesh. A symbol not of violence, but of finality. The Predator's flagship was left intact. As a message. A week later, the Alien War Council gathered under emergency protocol. Every surviving general, every sovereign. They spoke of retaliation, but the words rang hollow. No strategy could overcome what had happened. It wasn't that they had been defeated. It was that they had been rewritten. Old doctrines were erased. Entire training protocols deleted. Recruitment plummeted across sectors. New doctrine: avoid Earth. Do not engage humans unless absolutely necessary. Some wanted to retaliate anyway. The war priest Kuroth demanded vengeance, rallying ancient oaths. But even he fell silent when one of his own advisors, a battle-forged assassin who had once dueled a Terran Titan, stood and said a single sentence. She slapped him once. That was all it took. On Terra, the governments argued about how to control the myth. Intelligence agencies wanted her under wrap. Military strategists wanted her duplicated. Scientists wanted to dissect the nature of her strength. But she was already gone. She didn't wait for medals. Didn't pose for cameras. Didn't answer questions. She returned to the silence from which she came. Some said she was a rogue genetic experiment. Others believed she was the last result of a classified Terran Black project. One whisper suggested she was the first successful fusion of human and something older, something from the dark edge of the galaxy. But no proof ever surfaced. She left no trail. Only a record. The slap heard across the stars. Alien historians rewrote their chronicles. Galactic archives added a new chapter. Not under military engagements, but under existential threat. She wasn't listed under Earth's command structure. She wasn't given a rank. She was given a title. The Ender of Predators. The Storm in Human Skin. Baba Yaga. And across the galaxy, in the hidden corners where monsters once waited, a new tradition began to take root. War councils told their young, if you ever see her, don't fight. Don't speak. Run. But it was too late. The slap had already echoed too far. And no species, no weapon, no doctrine could ever silence its aftermath.